स्पोर्ट्स से जुड़ी किसी भी छोटी या बड़ी अपडेट के लिए सब्सक्राइब करें स्पोर्ट्स तक और साथ ही किसी भी नोटिफिकेशन को पाने के लिए बेल आइकन को दबाना ना भूलें।
Now, a lot of us might wonder how much of a role can a mind coach play in a professional athlete's career and progress. Well, I've got to say, some of you might know already. There's an Indian hand in some of the English performances in the ongoing India-England series. The man himself, Anand Chulani, head coach, well, should I say mind coach, or how do you refer yourself, Anand?
Mental conditioning expert and coach. Lovely. Peak performance expert.
So, I mean, you told us in one of the interviews that we did about you working with Jos, and I understand you worked with Ben Stokes as well, and you'll be doing it in the course ahead. Yes. Give us an idea of how much of a role can a mental expert play in a professional career, just to set this up, because they'd be having their own challenges at different stages of your career. Yes. How do you approach things?
Well, to me, it's very simple. It starts with everything is in the mind, right? You can have all the talent you want, but if your mind doesn't give you the signal to deliver, nothing's going to happen. So I believe that talent is important, skill set is important, but skill set without mindset is no set, right? And I think today, if you look at athletes, they spend so much of their time building themselves up in their career, being a better batsman, being a better bowler, being a better fielder, but they don't work on the one person that's the most important, themselves. Yeah. So their career will end at 37, 38, 39, 40, but what's their life going to look like? Who are they? How much they invested in themselves? And our mind is, to me, the fastest computer on the planet. So what we program it to be, it will deliver for us. If we want to have negative thoughts, that's what we'll create for ourselves. So there's a thing called the reticular activating system. It's a part of the brain, and it literally filters what you put in. So it will delete information. Like, for example, to be here right now, you have to delete something. You have to delete the sound of the waves, or you have to delete the sound of the AC. Something you have to delete to be here. So our programming is set up in some ways to capture certain things and to delete certain things. So how do we program that computer, that subconscious mind, so that it works for us instead of against us?
Right. So, a couple of players that you're working closely with, Jos Buttler, Ben Stokes, a lot of our Indian viewers might be interested in knowing, contrasting situations in their, stages of career as well, cricket as well, isn't it? Ben Stokes was the vice captain, then things happened, he lost his vice captaincy, he had to fight his way back. Someone like Jos, appointed the vice captain, just considered a white ball player, now establishing himself in red ball cricket. So obviously you have to deal with them differently and sort of prepare them, psych themselves up differently.
Yes, absolutely. Well, every player I work with, whether it be Indian players, English players, any player, Australian players I'm working with as well, any player is different. And if you think one size fits all works, you're in for a problem. My approach is different, my style is different, my methodology is the same. So let me take an example. The first thing I'll say to you, what you said is, I believe one of the issues is exactly what you said, names. So for example, I'm the vice captain. I'm not the vice captain. I'm a red ball player. I'm a white ball player. That in itself limits us because it's like the reticular activating system, right? It says I can only play.
Anand, a lot of our viewers would be interested in knowing, a couple of players from the English side that you deal with, Ben Stokes and Jos Buttler, very different stages of, where they find themselves in their career. Ben was the vice captain, things happened, lost his vice captaincy and had to fight his way back. Jos is someone who was bracketed as a white ball player and now, finding success in red ball cricket. So your methodology is different. How does it go?
Great question. I think for me, my methodology is the same, but my style and approach is different because every player is different. How you approach them, what drives them, what triggers them is very different. I hate the term motivation because I don't believe in motivation. Motivation is like a nice warm bath. You feel good for an hour and you forget an hour later. For me, it's about activating, which means there's something already inside of you. So it's the same thing. If I'm working with Jos or if I'm working with someone like Stokes or another player, Indian players, Australian players, it's finding what activates them. And so for me, it's interesting you mentioned the word, white ball player, red ball player, vice captain, not vice captain. I believe a lot of those things limit us because the minute we say I'm vice captain, we limit ourselves. Okay, I'm vice captain, but can't you be a leader on the team? Do you need a title to be that leader? I believe that, to me, when you put vice captain, for a lot of players, it can create pressure. Or captain. If I look at Joe Root, for example, to me, if you look at his form, pre-captain and post-captain, you can see a big difference. And I believe if he just went out there and just said, I'm Joe Root, I'm a player, forget the time, I'm a leader, I've always been a leader. I'm going to go out there and be the leader I am. And first level of leadership is leading myself, and don't need to carry this burden of this title. He'll flow at a different level. And it's the same thing, I believe, with these other guys, right? This vice captaincy thing also puts that pressure on. And it's the same thing with red ball and white ball. I mean, who says that we can't be, if I'm a white ball cricketer, I can't be a red ball cricketer, and vice versa? We put those rules on ourselves. And when we limit ourselves, it's like the reticular activating system, we block information. So now we have all the potential. If someone says to us, you can play test cricket, but part of our brain goes, no, I can't. No, I don't believe that. And when you do that, you stop yourself. I can see it in what's the spinner, Adil Rashid. I can see it in right now. This whole thing about him being a guy who's only a white ball cricketer. And you can see him being tentative out there and bowling faster. He's a guy that can get wickets. He's absolutely capable of it. If he just changes his approach and trusts himself and backs himself, I'm a match-winning cricketer. Whatever format I'm in, he'll get the results. A whole different guy would show up. So I believe one of the things that I believe limited guys like Jos was this tag. He's only a white ball cricketer. And I think in the interview you heard him say, Shane Warne chatted with him and said, you can play test cricket. And then Ed Smith tells him, you can play test cricket. And now he starts to go, maybe I can play test cricket. But he could always play test cricket. He didn't need Shane Warne to tell him he could play test cricket. That belief was in him. So yes, now someone tells you I can do it. But now the question is, do I trust myself to do it? So I think where I've been able to support him is really working with that level where it's not just knowing I can do well in test cricket, but believing and trusting that I can do well in test cricket and having a process to deliver in that format or in any format. One of the things I'm thrilled about it and proud of him is, look at this last 3 months. IPL, he scored 50s. One-day matches, he scored 50s. Test matches, he scored 50s. In fact, I believe, the IPL, he could have easily scored hundreds. And I believe he will score more hundreds in the IPL in the coming seasons. So he can score hundreds in any format. It's just a different approach and a different strategy. And we confuse mindset and strategy. Our mindset needs to be the same. Our strategy can be different.
Let me ask you this way. I mean, you would have come across non-believers in sports, in mental conditioning, and some would say it obviously boils down to technique as well. How much can a mind coach help?
Yes.
I mean, Jos is credited with the work that you've done with him, but I mean, he also had to deal with the perfume ball in Test match cricket, and that's real stuff. So that's something that he would have learned to deal with as well.
Technique is absolutely very important. I mean, if you don't have technique, I can be in the mentally the most. I can believe I'm going to play for India, but if I don't have the talent or technique, I'm in trouble. But with that, you see, it's a question of which way does it go. Mind goes first, and then talent and technique come to deliver on that mindset. If you work on technique, I can work on the technique. I can work on leaving the ball. But when I go out there, I've got no confidence, or I'm scared of being out, I'll play at the ball. So I can spend 100 balls in the nets working on that. But in the end, my technique will let me down because my mindset let me down. The mindset is the general of the army. The technique and the talent are the soldiers. So you need the right command for the right firing. And what happens here is guys on fire. I can see them. I can see guys in the IPL, many guys I can refer to, who over-practiced. And the challenge with over-practicing is you burn yourself out with energy. So now you come in the middle and you're exhausted. You're not coming there fresh. Every player knows the level they need to practice. And every player knows, okay, there's some chinks in your armor. Right? Sourav Ganguly, everyone knows short ball wasn't his strength. But Sourav Ganguly is, Dada, right? Look at his career. He had a level of success. He went beyond technique because he's a perfect example of someone highly mentally strong and highly mentally fit. And it's that, to me, that made him strong. It wasn't his physical fitness. It wasn't his short ball ability. It was his mental fitness, his mental strength, and his absolute God-given talent. So I believe if you have talent and you could add mindset to that, the technique and all those things you'll figure out. And you get, I'm sure, the perfect, great coaches, batting coaches who can work with you on that, watch video with you, correct those things. We all have those habits. But again, think about it. Why am I going to nibble for that ball outside the off stump? It's because at some level, I'm not secure. If I can feel secure in myself, I won't nibble for that ball. If I feel insecure, I'll feel like I have to play at it. It's that way around. So if players can focus on certain muscles, I believe being secure within themselves, self-belief, and self-trust. Those are the three most important muscles, I say. If they can get those three right, their talent will flow.
How about Ben? I mean, his is obviously a very different case, a challenge in itself. He played through this whole, well, should I say, the challenge of being bracketed as someone who was involved in something that is not perceived as the right approach for a sportsman. He played through the IPL and did fairly well. And now this innings at Trent Bridge, coming in after the trial, how did he manage that?
Great question. I would say two things. First of all, let me say, I met Ben Stokes in the IPL, and of course, you read about him in the press. You know he's super talented, but you also know he got into this issue, and you know his off-field issues that he had. I have to say, in all my career, in everything I've done in sports, the most, let's call, underappreciated and misunderstood player I have ever met in any game, I'm talking about basketball, football, cricket, tennis, is Ben Stokes. He is one of the nicest guys in the world. I can tell you some great stories about him, just to show you the contrast. There's an image of him that the public has. And of course the public has that image because it sells newspapers to have that image of him. But I'm telling you something, this guy has a heart of gold. Everyone thinks he comes from significance, but actually the guy comes from love and connection and contribution. When he gets pissed off in a match, when he gets annoyed, it's because he cares so much. It's because he wants to win. It's because he wants his team to go over the line. I looked at us in the IPL, we didn't win our first few matches, right? We took, like any team, we take time to get through our rhythm. If you look at the person who gave everything, every night, no matter what, Ben Stokes would be up there. Other guys as well, but who had energy consistently, Ben Stokes. Who played for his teammates every time, Ben Stokes. And the two stories I'll give you that really show his character, in my opinion, is one, I was in England this summer, and Ben got me tickets to see the match in Bristol. And I think it was one of the first matches he came back to the team on. And I was watching the match, and I was in the stands, and he at one point was fielding on the boundary. And I was there, and I got to see and I was in the Indian section, right? So of course I'm Indian, I'm cheering for my own country, but I want my English guys to do well as well. So I wanted India to win, but I wanted the English guys to do well, right? So I'm there, and of course all these Indian kids are running up to these guys and getting autographs. Should I tell you who out of all the players on both teams signed the most autographs? Ben Stokes. There was not one kid he denied. He signed autographs no matter what. And not only that, he would actually invite kids and support them. And I'm talking about there are players on even the Indian team, I won't mention names, who completely ignore these guys. These are your own countrymen who've come to support you. I looked at that and I was like, wow. I felt bad for those kids because these are kids who see these players as idols. And here they are not signing autographs. Now I understand you're in the game, you're in your zone, but no matter how successful you are, remember you were that kid. And I think we tend to forget that. And to see Stokes, the way he cared for those kids, on Indian kids, English kids, no matter what kids, shows his character. And to me, the other story I'd give you is this, which to me is beautiful. Rewatch the last test match. When Stokes gets his 50, he celebrates. When Buttler scores his 100, see how he celebrates. He celebrates more for Jos's 100 than he does for his own 50. That shows you his character, his level of team first, his level of caring for his boys. And he was after the match, I remember, we were chatting, he was so happy for Jos. And that to me shows his character. So I wasn't there when the fight happened. I wasn't there when this whole thing happened. There are CCTV cameras that can give you the proof of that. I'm not there to be a judge. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a judge. What I am is a coach, and what I am is an expert in human behavior. And I will tell you, this man is high in his values, is a good human being, is a good father, is a good husband, is a good teammate. Everyone loves him. All the Indian boys from the team. Trust me, in the IPL, I see English players, Australian players come. Some click, some gel, some don't.
But Anand, there's one thing losing it on the field of play, and another being involved in the thing that he did.
Yes.
So there was obviously a challenge that he had to overcome, to perform, to deliver peak performance.
Yes.
How do you think he's been able to manage that, and what is it that you would have focused with him on?
Great question. I would say two things. One is, we all make mistakes. It's easy just to point the finger at someone else. Of course, there are things I'm sure he'll take accountability for. But I also know his intention is also to protect people. He's that kind of person in nature. So I'm not condoning any way what he did, but I know something. There's a lot of learnings in this, and I truly believe this. What happened in some ways is the greatest thing that could happen to Ben Stokes, because I think it's going to make him even more mature as a human being, more mature as a player. And in fact, you saw that in the middle. His knock was one of the most mature innings I've seen. Yep. I believe he's made that step up in his life to playing with a level of responsibility at a different level. He always played with responsibility, but really playing responsible, playing according to the situation. I mean, that was the most restrained innings I've ever seen him do. And what was amazing was every ball he was in control. Every single ball in that innings, he was in complete control. I think that was the thing there is, if there's a message I can say to Ben, the message would be this: you're a leader. Whether you're vice captain or not vice captain, you're a leader. And if you play from that place of leader, if you play from that place of self-leadership, and I think that's the area where he's learning that lesson off the field, and he's learning that lesson on the field. How to be in control of himself, how to control his emotions, how to influence himself. And he's learned that lesson from his situation, and he's learning that lesson on the field. And you're seeing the results. And the way his teammates also supported him and backed him, that shows you his character. So I believe this. Character comes from choices we make under pressure. And I believe Ben has gone through a very difficult time. To have that court case weighing on his head was difficult. But I believe what's great is he's come from a place now not of worrying about what others think of him, trying to defend himself. It's about having integrity with himself and batting and living his life now according to his values. So to me, he's now more realigned with himself, and he's accessing that leader, and it's showing up in the middle.
Just picking up on that partnership that stretched the test match to the fifth day, which was an achievement in itself for the English side. Both Ben and Jos must have been thinking right, because both of them are stroke players and they batted differently for that 170-odd partnership that they did.
Yes, absolutely. Well, let me tell you something. Watching that match was, I can imagine what family members go through when they watch matches. As a coach, I was in Thailand watching the match, and I downloaded it onto Hotstar, and I'm watching this thing, and the video goes out, and they had like a moment where the Wi-Fi would go off, and I'd lose connection, and I'd be wondering what happened. I get back on the screen. I'm so proud of them, because they had to just completely trust each other. They had to completely focus on ball by ball, and they had to just rebuild. And to see both natural, aggressive players play with a level of self-control and self-trust. I mean, I have a lot of respect for Virat Kohli. If you look at Virat's 100, I mean, the guy's got a bad back. The guy's going out there. The guy's also an aggressive player. I think in some ways he was kind of an inspiration to them in terms of showing them how, on that wicket, you can play that way. And you can still, when the bad ball is there, you can punish it. But you got to keep your flow. And I think for me, seeing the way someone like Jos left the ball, and seeing the way that someone like Ben defended the ball tells me tons about it, because they were locked in, and there was a level of certainty that they gave themselves and the team. And the way they did it step by step by step, and to see them not only just supporting each other, but rewarding each other, laughing. It's interesting. I was watching the match, and I kept seeing, the wicketkeeper, he claps for the bowler every ball. And I keep wondering, fielders do that for bowlers to boost them up. What do batsmen do for each other? They wait till the end of the over to bump gloves. But I watched the way these guys were supporting each other. And that, to me, was what made it even sweeter. To see that they both kind of helped each other stay in flow, help each other stay with faith and trust. That was incredible. That partnership, to me, I think not only has made this a series now. I think if they'd been rolled over, I think India had a huge momentum, and it was tough, and India had the chance to come back. I think now it's going to be a tough fought series, because if the English team can use Stokes and Buttler's fight, amazing things will happen. I'll tell you right now one thing: this is not the end for them. They're going to go on to bigger scores.
So watch out for Jos and Ben, the Indian cricket team. But
the other guys, I don't know. I can't speak.
But you also touched upon Virat, Anand. He's also been able to sort of deal with his captaincy so well. It's only enhanced his performance. So there's a lesson in it for a lot of players as well.
Absolutely. I have the highest respect for Virat Kohli. If you ask me one player I'd love to work with, I'd love to work with Virat. I'd love to work with him, not just him as a player, but to work with him in the Indian team. Because he is a person who's all about talent and mindset. So he believes in it already. He uses it. And I think the key with him is, people make kind of look at him and say he's aggressive. But to me, it's not aggression. It's self-confidence. It's self-belief. And I think at times when he gets frustrated, it's because he doesn't see that confidence and self-belief in the other players in his team, and he wants them to have it. And you can't give it to someone. They have to create that from within themselves. So I have such respect for him because I think he's going to be one of India's best captains. I think he's someone who brings energy. I always believe this. A leader, when they walk into the room, controls the energy of the room. They either raise the mental frequency of the room or they lower it. Virat's a guy that raises that level. I believe people like Hardik Pandya, these kind of guys, would never be at the level they are at without someone like a Virat to give them the mindset and to give them the culture. I think he's created an amazing culture around that team. And I think he's a true champion.
Right. Let's close this with any story that you may have to share with. I mean, you worked with Rajasthan Royals as well during the course of IPL Kings 11 in the past.
Yes.
Any favorite stories about an Indian player or anything? How the trick may have worked and it may have sort of given you that big thumbs up?
Well, there are a couple examples I can give you. One is, I had one story. There's a player I was working with, and I can't mention the name, but player I was working with, and I was doing a visualization session with him the night before, and he said, I said to him, who are you going to get out? He said, I'm going to get this guy out, that guy out, that guy out. I said, perfect. I said, how are you going to get them out? We talked about it because he visualized it. The next day, I kid you not, he said he was going to get 4 wickets. He got 4 wickets. Out of the wickets, 2 of them were exactly the way he described. And one was like a catch. I mean, it was literally, I'm going to cotton ball this guy. And he took a cotton ball off him exactly the way he planned it, exactly the way it was there. And to see that, you see a lot of cricket players, I believe in, I need to see it to believe it. What I'm teaching them is believe it and then you will see it. And I think if we can get in that mindset, that catch was already in his hands before that match. But we tend to think, now I'll believe I can do it. But sometimes in the Indian cricket team, you don't get that chance. You can't wait till now I get that 50 to feel like I belong. You have to belong before it. That's one story. Another story is, again, another player I'm sure I've worked with. Literally, said he's going to score a certain number of runs, about 100, and he scored 140. And he, at that level. So he was able to play at that level. Same thing, same image in his mind he's able to create on the field. There are a lot of really talented Indian players. And I got to say one thing. I believe in our culture, unfortunately, we're not at that level yet, which I want us to be, where we value mindset. We talk about mental strength. And a lot of Indian players are mentally strong, but they're not mentally fit. I can be physically strong with muscles, but being fit on the field is a completely different thing. Strength is I've been through tough times and I've come back. Fitness is I have the ability to adapt to any situation and bring that strength when I need it. And I believe if we can become mentally fit, Paddy Upton was there for a reason. If we can become mentally fit as well as players and train the next generation, we can be not just number one for 1 year, 2 years, we can sustain it. And my whole work is about being a champion, not an achiever, but a champion, sustaining success, not just having good years or good quarters or good matches. And there's a lot of good guys I think coming through. I can mention names of guys I've seen in the Rajasthan Royals. Shreyas Gopal, I think he's a guy that's definitely going to play for India. Got all the talent. To me, another guy I would say is Sanju Samson. To me, the fact that Sanju Samson has not played at that level is crazy. He has so much talent. He's so mentally tough. He's so mentally fit. He's such a team player. And I think he absolutely deserves to play for India. Another young guy coming up, and he's still kind of finding his feet. But I believe he will get there is Ariman Birla. I think he's a young guy, a lot of talent, a lot of energy, smart, has absolute leadership ability in him. And there are a lot of other guys I can mention to you from Kings and from Rajasthan Royals. But I still remember, when I was working with Pune Warriors many years ago, not the best culture. I remember meeting Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, and after the session, everyone was pumped up, and Bhuvi came to me and said, Bhuvi, you don't seem pumped up. And I still remember what he said to me. He looks at me and goes, Anand, just because I'm not pumped up doesn't mean I don't want it. And this look he gave me in his eyes, I was like, there's a killer in this guy. And the way he's been, I believe he's playing in England right now, he'd be able to get a lot of wickets for them. He doesn't look that big, intimidating bowler, but that guy is mentally tough and mentally fit. So we have a lot of these guys around. I think it's just using them and working together. Rahane. Wow, to me, he's absolute champion. Champion on the field, off the field. One of the best captains I've worked with in the IPL. One of the nicest guys, one of the most caring human beings for his teammates. Completely brought the team together. And mentally tough and mentally fit. I believe Rahane is someone who, if we just continue, we tend to, I was reading reports and they said, Rahane, he should be dropped. You saw what he did. That guy should never be dropped. The other guy that should never be dropped, in my opinion, is Rohit Sharma. I mean, to me, the way he batted England in the one-dayers, he has changed his game. The Rohit before relied on his talent. The Rohit of today is meant... I mean, you can't win this many of IPL championships. You can't get this level of success if you don't have it. And I would say the same thing to him. If I could speak to him right now on camera, I would say the same thing. Get out of this white ball, red ball BS. If you can score double 100 in white ball cricket, you can absolutely score consistent double hundreds in red ball cricket. He has the talent. He has the mindset. He just needs to get out of the belief of it, that he can't do it, own it, go back there, prove it, and then I know he'll deliver. He's another guy I'd love to work with because I think he's got all the talent in the world and the right mindset.
With the work you're doing, I'm sure you'll get many more players to work with. It was lovely chatting with you, Anand. Thanks for your time. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.